those of you who haven't been here before, we are trying to put on a show. We're trying to make this a stage, as I said, and create a place where you feel a bit of the anxiousness when it comes to speaking in front of an audience. And the reason why we're trying to do that is because this is the number one fear. I've shown for the past couple of weeks the survey that proves that it's the number one fear over death. And I think what Toastmasters really is the place to confront our fears. And it's the fears of strangers and the fears of being judged and the fears that we're all feeling, I think, in the moment that Toastmasters is really trying to address. It's how do we express ourselves in a way that people will hear us, and not only hear us, but be inspired by us, persuaded by us, and that's what Toastmasters is all about. I don't know how many of you are here from another Toastmasters, but you all probably know about the Competent Communicator Manual, which is the 10 speeches. And of those 10 speeches, you're probably familiar with the first one, which is the icebreaker, which breaks the ice and lets us get to know other people. Tell me about yourself. That's what the first speech is. But then it leads up to the 10th speech. And the 10th speech is to inspire your audience. Right? This is a club, this is an organization that says, in 10 speeches, I'm going to show you how to break the ice, how to introduce yourself to strangers, people who don't know you, and then show you how to get to a place where you're going to inspire people. It's a pretty tall order. And any other place, I'd say that's just an exaggeration. But I happen to believe that they figured it out. And they figured it out because what they really ask you to do is to get up there and do it. And not only do it, but also do it and get feedback from it. And that's the part we're adding tonight. Tonight we started to add our feedback component to our speeches. So what we're going to do is after every table topic, we're going to ask you to fill out our Google form and give the speaker feedback. It's all anonymous, but that way after you've spoken, you'll get some feedback from us in the audience, even though we're not in the same room. And so that's the process here. That's what we're trying to accomplish, is to allow us to feel the anxiety and the fear of being judged, and then let people say, this is what I saw. Here are the things I thought were great. Here are the things I think could use some improvement. And that's the process of going from an icebreaker to speech number 10, where you can inspire people. Because I think inspiration is what we're all missing right now. There are too many strangers among us, right? We're too fearful of strangers. That's what we're trying to break down here in Toastmasters. We need to get past the strangers and the fear to a place where we understand each other and can inspire each other. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you guys in the spirit of who inspires you the most. I have many people who inspire me. Many of them tend to be on the Zen side, as those of you who know me know. But I think most of us all understand the inspiration from Martin Luther King. So I wanted to play in this moment his speech that I've been to the mountaintop. I think we've all heard that. But it's a nice way to remind ourselves of, one, what difficult period we're in right now, but the hope that can come from an inspired speaker and inspired leader. So let me play that for you.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
It's the power of a speech. I don't know how many of you know the story behind his trip to Memphis, but I think it's worth me just sharing with you what it was, the reasons for it. You know, we've made a lot of progress. Things were much better than they were back at that time. But we still have a lot of problems, obviously, and we're feeling those problems today. But one of the differences that is a result of what happened back then, specifically, is how we view sanitation workers. Today, we all understand and respect the work that sanitation workers do when they clean up the garbage and they come and they haul away all of our trash. We understand the dignity that comes with that job and the respect that we pay to many of them, that you know, we probably don't do enough of that, but we understand it, I think, collectively, that they're an important part of our society. Martin Luther King was down in Memphis because back then, sanitation workers were not thought of at all. They were very poorly paid, an afterthought, and primarily African American, as you might imagine. And so in Memphis, there were two African American sanitation workers who were caught in the rain. And to take shelter, they hopped in the sanitation truck, which compacts the trash. And because of the rain, the compactor short-circuited, and they were crushed in the compactor. And the sanitation workers went on strike. And they went on strike, obviously, to be heard, to let the world know the tragedy that had taken place. And rather than being heard, the city of Memphis chose not to recognize them, and in fact, they threw an injunction on them to say, you can't strike anymore. And so when you hear Dr. King talking about the injunction that won't stop them, he's talking about that. He's saying, they're not going to let us turn us away. We're going to force you to hear us. And through that tragedy, obviously now we have this respect that we pay for sanitation workers. We hear them. But again, we don't hear them enough, obviously, just like we don't hear all the folks who are oppressed, poor, unable to speak for themselves. And that's why Martin Luther King to me, Dr. Martin Luther King to me, is such an important speaker, is that he became a voice for the oppressed, the who can't speak. And we need those folks. But there's also power in us individually finding our voices. And that's what's happening now. We're seeing the protests. We're seeing all the things that say this is not right. I don't know, maybe I was out protesting myself. And as we think about what we can do to fix the situation, it's a big problem. But for me, for I think Sean and Kaylee, we think this is the answer. We think being able to express who you are in a way that makes you feel good and not fearful is the answer. And so that's why I'm here. That's why we're here, is to get you guys on camera, on the stage, whatever format is, so that you can express yourself. Because that's how this is going to change. Is instead of us being fearful about speaking to each other and seeing each other as strangers and enemies, if we're able to speak to each other in a friendly, open fashion, this won't happen. So that's my appeal to you all. That is my inspiration to you all to join us. We need an audience so that you guys, I can continue to do this. This is why I'm a Toastmasters, because we get an audience here. And after I do it every week, it's invigorating to me. It charges me up. It inspires me because I get to hear you all. And so this is a place where you are inspired to be inspired. So with that being said, as I said, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming. I'm now going to turn it over to Kaylee and sit back and enjoy this show and be inspired by you all. And then for the rest of us after that, please join us for After Hours. That's where we're going to talk about our membership. If anybody wants to join, hop in and we'll tell you about the benefits. For anybody that's guests that are here, we want to hear from you as well, and understand where you all came from. And by the way, if you're a guest here, would you please in the chat tell us how you found out about us so we know, and then stick around for After Hours, as I said. All right, with that said, I'm going to get the show on the road with table topics. So, Kaylee, let me turn this over to you.
Yes, hello again. Welcome again, and thank you, Henry, for sharing that very powerful video. I think we're probably all very primed for this table topic question of the evening, which is who inspires you and why? And I do have 2 slots still left on the sign up sheet, and I want to make sure guests know that they can sign up for table topics. So I know we haven't gotten to hear from you, but we have a good number of guests today. If I don't hear from you during table topics, we definitely will take a moment at the end of the meeting just to say hello, introduce yourself to us, and get some face-to-face time. But I do want to welcome newcomers Baz, Alex, Bavika. Please do tell me if I'm mispronouncing your name, of course. Cassia, Daniel. I think those are our guests for the evening. So really welcome. And as I said, you are welcome to participate in table topics with us. Sean has dropped the link to that in the chat. And we have 2 slots left, so please do. We'd love to have a full roster this evening. That being said, I want to get right into it. As I start table topics off, there's a few things I want to lay down as the format, especially for folks who are maybe new to table topics or at least new to us. There will be a timer on your screen as you speak. Toastmasters gives us the time frame of 1 to 2 minutes to speak during a table topic. So you're trying to hit at least 1 minute and then not go over 2 minutes. So you'll see that the timer changes color. At a minute, it goes from green to yellow. At 2 minutes, it turns red. And then new this week, at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you will hear some gentle exit music that will usher you off the stage that Henry will play. And this is, for a couple of reasons. It's not because we don't love hearing what you're saying, but we want to be respectful of everyone's time. We want to get as many people into table topics as speaking as possible. And, we want to also be respectful of audience time because we have limited time here together and we want to get enough people speaking. And I also want to mention it is because we at Toastmasters are all learning to be more succinct and concise, which is something I also need to learn as we speak. So that 2 minute and then 2 minute at 30-second exit music that'll kind of usher you off the stage is for the reason of also learning conciseness. Plus, you can also, pretend that you're in your Oscar gown or tuxedo and that you're gently being led off the stage after your big win. So that's new this week, that music. As well as I want to mention that there's a word of the day today. The word of the day is burgeoning, which, oh, I do have the definition in front of me here. Burgeoning means to begin to grow or increase rapidly, to flourish. So if you use that word during your table topic, you get some brownie points, and also Homer will congratulate you. Finally, I think Sean did mention this, but we are doing something new today to be able to give some feedback to our table topic speakers. So as table topics goes along, after each person speaks, Sean will drop a link in the chat. And if you go to that, it's a very short feedback form. Just fill that out for each person if you could, because us as audience members do have a role to play in this, to give people some feedback as they're giving table topics every week and growing. I think that'll really help people feel acknowledged and feel like they get some feedback off of all this speech practicing that we're doing here tonight. Okay, well, that is enough for me. So I want to get started right away with Rajiv, our friend, who's first up for table topics. And Rajiv's from the Bronx. His favorite word is epic. And he has the auspicious honor of being our first new member for Toastmasters New Voice Live. So thank you for that, Rajiv. And I'll let you take it away for your table topic.
Awesome. So what's the question that I'm answering this week?
It is, who inspires you and why?
Who inspires you and why? Okay, great. Yeah, this is a great question. It's a fairly simple answer. Didn't really have to think about it. The person that inspires me is my mother, and there's a reason for that. She achieved many, many different things by overcoming many obstacles, and she did this when the world was extremely different than it is today. And this, I'm talking, I guess I'm dating myself by saying this, but this was, I don't know, in the 80s, 70s. She was like one of the first women of color to become a radio personality, to become a news anchor. She was also somebody that started in the teaching profession and surged upwards, got a PhD, became the head of the department, and then became the department head, and then moved on, more and more further on in life to for greater and greater achievements. But that's not why she inspires me. She inspires me because she is the one beacon for health and wellness. She actually is the one that motivated me to take my health seriously, because she actually beat diabetes. And she beat diabetes by altering her lifestyle, watching her diet, and watching her food intake and frequency and quantity. And that allowed her to go from being pre diabetic to being not diabetic. And that's what inspired me to do the same. Of course, it did take a while for that idea to dawn on me and to get through my thick skull. But eventually I did. And I did beat diabetes earlier this year. In fact, very close to my birthday. So it was a great birthday gift that when my A1C number came in, it turned out to be normal. And I was like, yes, awesome. And the reason, my motivation for doing that, yes, my mother did inspire me tremendously. And she actually inspired me by saying, hey, I did it. So why can't you do it? And I had to admit, yes, mom, yes, I know you did it, but please don't rub it in my face all the time. So yeah, so that's something that did happen, and she does inspire me and continues to be an inspiration uh, for every single passing day. So this is a toast to all the moms out there, that you inspire us, even if we don't give you the due recognition on a daily basis. But please know that you have made an impact and you continue to make an impact. So thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing. Your mom sounds awesome. And
Yeah,
as
yeah.
you were speaking, I realized it seems like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You have a podcast.
You.
Your mom
Thank
was
you.
in radio and on the news. What was her news career? Was it like local news, or what was it?
No, it was the national news. She was the TV anchor for primetime news for the 9 p.m. News program.
Wow, that is really awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for sharing. And also congratulations on your good health.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Rajiv.
Kaylee, I want to interrupt real quick.
Sure.
First, sorry about that, Rajiv. That was me on the technical difficulties there. I apologize for that. And also, we want to get the forms, the evaluation forms.
Yes, yeah. I'm so sorry. I forgot to mention that. This is new for us. But Sean is going to put, and maybe already has, put a link in the chat. So for those in the audience, please click on that link. It's just a simple Google form, and you can give Rajiv some feedback on how you liked his table topic. Thanks again, Rajiv. And
Thank
I will
you.
also
Praise
say,
is welcome.
yes, the praise is welcome. Yes, I love it. So thanks for that. And, you know, I want to mention too, that link you'll be able to use for every person who speaks tonight. So with that said, we'll keep moving along on our table topics. It looks like next up for our table topic is a longtime member of ours who we're happy to see back. Ning, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Can you hear me?
I can. We can hear you and see you. How are you?
Good, I'm good. I miss you guys.
We miss you too. How is school? I know you were at NYU last time we saw you, and I imagine you're doing
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, I'm still in my program, and I became PhD candidate last month.
You did, PhD candidate. Oh my goodness. Well, congratulations for that. Please, everyone, give some congratulations. Oh, well, it's great to have you back. And I'll let you take it away for your table topic.
Yeah, okay. So, who inspired me and why? I just thought of my first academic mentor in my life when I was in my undergrads in China. My major was social welfare, and what we were learned is all about how we made policies in China and how the policies changed in China. We just learned the fact, not the theory. But in my third year of my undergrads, my first mentor, this lady just came in my life, and she taught us a course about the comparison of different social policies in different countries. And I expected that she just introduced some facts, but no, she introduced us a lot of theories. And it was my first time to become interested, or we say to be aware of what academic was. And at that time, she was studying in Australia in her master program. And she is the first professor I met who studied abroad. And she told me a lot about the study and life outside China. And I asked a lot of questions. For example, I thought if you want to study abroad, your family must be very rich, and your first college would be very famous. And she told me, no, she is not rich. But if you are interested in academic and you have the ambitions, you can apply for PhD program or other program which had the financial support for you. And I was like, a new door was opened, and I saw a new world. And I think it is my first step towards academic life. And we say, my dream burgeoned. I used that word. Yeah, she inspired me in a way of my academic dream, and we keep in touch till now. And we often share information and talk about our experience, about our research, especially during the pandemic period. So yeah, I really appreciate of having this lady to be my first academic advisor. She inspired me a lot in my whole life.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It sounds like this professor is a little bit of why you are here today in New York doing a PhD program at NYU, which is so impressive. What is your area of study again? Is it social
Social work.
social work?
Yeah.
And after you finish with your schooling, what will you do? Will you become a social worker or continue in academia?
Continue academia, I think.
Possibly here in the States or possibly back in China?
Uh, I planned to stay here, but a lot of things happened these days, and I'm not sure. But I will try my best to find a position anywhere in the world.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we wish you the best of luck. It sounds like you've had some great teachers and mentors. Thank you, Ning.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. That definitely makes me think of some great teachers I've had in my life that I've been lucky enough to have. Thanks, Ning. We are moving on to Brian, who I believe is a guest of ours. I think a first-time guest. Brian, can you hear me? Brian, are you still on the call here? Let's see. Brian may have dropped off, so we're gonna go next to a longtime member of our club and someone I'm so happy to see back. Eliseo, how are you? Oh, Eliseo, I think we need you off mute.
There we go. You guys hear me?
We can. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm doing great. It's good to see you guys. Glad to see you guys are all healthy.
Yes. Are you still in New
busy.
York?
No, I'm actually in Jersey right now. It was actually the worst timing. I moved into my new apartment right as the stuff started happening, and like all my roommates got sick at the same time. So I just bolted out of there. I'm like, I'm hiding out in Jersey. I'm coming back when the fires are down and everything's more copacetic.
Oh my gosh, what a
Yeah,
situation. I remember that now that you were moving around the time that I
yeah,
think I last saw
bad
you.
timing.
Okay. That's quite the story. Well, goodness, glad to see you and glad to see you healthy. I'll let you
Thank you.
take it away for your table topic.
Sure, sure. So someone who inspires me, I would say, is Keanu Reeves. He is the man. I grew up watching him with The Matrix. This was one of my first movies I ever saw. And just to see him 20 plus years later doing movies like John Wick, where he's taking people down, doing all kinds of crazy martial arts and working his weapons and all the stuff that he does, it's just it's amazing. It's a real delight and pleasure to watch him work. It inspires me to say, you know what, I'm gonna be 50 and I'm gonna be able to take down bad guys with whatever martial arts I got. And yeah, yeah, I'm gonna keep watching him. Hopefully, keeps making movies until he's an old man. Shoot, so that's what inspires me.
Thanks, Eliseo. That's awesome. You're gonna be so jealous when I tell you this, but I was once in an elevator with Keanu Reeves.
Oh my God.
And it's a whole story, so I have to tell you another time in person.
Sure.
He is very cool, and I know this about you, and I know you're very active, and I know you're a boxer, and that kind of made sense to me that you love Keanu Reeves. Are you still boxing? Are you still able to work out now?
I wish I don't know when gyms are gonna reopen in the city. To be honest, I don't know how you socially distance in a boxing gym. But I think at that point we'll all just roll the dice and get our workout on. So I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know. Yeah, you're right. It's kind of close quarters when you're punching someone in the face, so hard to keep 6 feet distance.
Yeah.
All right, well, awesome to see you, man, and hope to see you back again. Next up for our table topics is Rob. Our friend Rob, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm excited. I signed up to be a member before I jumped on to the Zoom, so
Awesome.
I'm part
We love
of
it.
the club.
Awesome. Well, it's great to see you back. Happy to have you as a
Thank you.
member. Really happy. And I'll let you take it away for this week's table topics.
So, as a creative and a designer, I'm constantly looking for inspiration and people that inspire me. And right now, it's not a single person, but it's all the people that have come out over the last week and stood up and shared their stories, whether through the protests or just in different ways. And the stories have inspired me on a deep level as someone that needs to grow. And the thing about inspiration is something comes out of inspiration, whether it's something that inspires you creatively or in your work. And when you are inspired by stories and they allow you to look at yourself or look at your community and society and see where there's room for growth, there's something so incredibly powerful about that. And I'm inspired and grateful that I'm able to take this moment and find a way to help and find a place for some burgeoning creativity and inspiration that I could give back and help allow people to grow. So that's where I'm just very grateful for all the stories and people sharing their own personal experiences. That's allowed me to just take pause and see how I can grow. And I'm grateful for that. So thank you.
Woohoo!
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think your recognition of stories being inspirational and being a vehicle for growth is really poignant. And I really always admire about you, Rob, that you're very open about talking about your quest for growth and your recognition that that is something that you want to do right now in your life. So I also wanted to ask you about your word of the day, which kind of, or your favorite word, which seems to sort of maybe connect to some of those things you've been talking about growth. You chose holistic. Can you tell me why you chose that word?
Yeah, and I guess it relates a little to what I talked about during the table topics, but there's everything connects together, and I think creatively as people, as humans, the planet, that when you're able to step back and see things in a more holistic way and see how these different things and people all connect together, I think it's a really important way to look at the world. And I think especially now with what's going on, to see the big picture and realize that all people need to really be lifted up the same way. And I love the quote of the tide raises all boats, and I think there's a lot of truth to that when everyone grows, everyone wins. And I think that some people just really get caught up in a way that's not a holistic way of looking at the world. They think that if someone else is winning, they're losing, and that's just not the truth of it. So
yeah,
sorry,
thank you.
Kind of went off on a tangent.
No, actually, I was kind of thinking while you were talking, I was like, that's a really big concept to ask him to explain in a 30-second time, but I think you did a really good job of it. And I think a lot of folks in this club are trying to express large concepts, and we're all kind of trying to get it more and more concise. So you did a good job of that, and I think that's something for me and all of us to work on. So thank you for that, Rob.
Thanks.
Great. And also I'm sorry I keep forgetting to remind us of this, but please do go back to that link in the chat that Sean sent so that we can give feedback to some of our last table topics people. So if you could just do that as audience members, please do fill one of those out for Brian, Eliseo. Oh, Brian wasn't here. Eliseo, Rob, Ning, and Rajiv. And you can use that same link every time. So I wanted to remind you of that. Moving on, we have a guest, Baz, I believe, from Toronto. Am I saying that all right, Baz?
Yes, perfectly. Can you
Wonderful.
hear me?
I can hear you. And thank you for joining us from Toronto. How did you hear about us?
I was looking for to join a club, to participate in a club tonight. So I was looking around, and your club showed up, and I was very happy because I sent the message on your through the Facebook page, and someone replied. So I immediately jumped in and wanted to join you. So whoever sent me the Zoom link, thank you very much. It's because of you I'm here.
You are welcome. It was me.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes. but it's so great to have you. Thanks, Baz. Take it away.
So it's a very interesting question, and there are so many great people around us. But something that I learned from someone, which I think it's very true, is don't praise someone too much, because tomorrow if you need to criticize them, it becomes very difficult. So I think what I admire about people is their features and characters, and something that we can learn from them. That being said, I will mention a few things that I love when I see it with in people that I deal with, and I try to apply it to myself. One of them is people who listen more than they talk, and when they only talk when there is something that's worth sharing. I'm in sales, and I always try to remind myself, to listen more than I talk or speak. Also, the other features that I admire in people is they don't shy away from showing their vulnerabilities to other. They could be exposed. They show their emotions, and they are not shy about it. And I really love this in people. And again, I'm trying to learn it myself. And last but not least, especially with all what's going on these days, is those people who will stand up and speak up for the truth. Yes, they don't care if that will might make them lose their job or cause them bigger problems. As long as they know that this is the right thing to say, they just say it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Baz, for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I think, I loved what you said, because you hit on so many things that we in our club talk about in regards to self-expression and being Toastmasters and interested in public speaking. You talked about vulnerability, about praise and criticism and feedback giving, and raising your voice. I'm sort of curious, are you part of a Toastmasters club in Toronto?
Yes.
And are these some of the
See,
topics that
a
also
Toastmaster can feel a fellow Toastmaster. So I've been a Toastmaster member for about 3 or 4 years now, and my club name is Podium Toastmaster.
Yes, wonderful. Yes, I did feel like my antenna went up a little bit. I was like, he seems to be clocked into what we're talking about here. That's awesome. Well, you're very welcome. We'd love to have you back again, and say hello to everyone at your Toastmasters group back there in Toronto.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, guys. And again, please go to the feedback form to give Baz some feedback. We will deliver this feedback, of course, to all of our table topic speakers of the evening. Next up is our wonderful friend, Peter. Peter, can you hear me? Are you there?
I'm here, guys. Sorry, I had to switch rooms. It got a little loud in the living room, so
That's okay.
apologies for that.
Welcome. It's nice to see you. I was just looking to see what your favorite word is, and interesting is about as good a word as I can think of. Was there any reason you chose that?
I probably use that word 100 times a day, every day. And I've gotten mixed results with it. Some people tell me it's not descriptive enough. Others tell me it's meaningless. But to me, there's so many situations I encounter every day because of my curiosity. I don't know what else to call it, but interesting. So.
I feel like it's a perfect Peter word and a perfect Toastmasters word, because it all to be more interesting and to be interested in what we're hearing. So I love it. I will let you take it away for your table topic, Peter.
Thank you very much, Madam Table Topics Master. Good evening, fellow guests. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to answer this question, which is an interesting one, right? Who inspires you and why? So many good answers. And I guess the positive of everything that's happening is that there are some things that we can look at now that are inspirational, unfortunately. Or I should say, fortunately, due to the unfortunate events. But I will say the group of people that inspire me most at this point, it's not an individual person, it's the people that decided that enough was enough, and that took to the streets and protested, like you, Henry. As you said, you joined the protests, like others who maybe they were directly affected by what happened, maybe they weren't, maybe they're African American, maybe they're Eastern European or Caucasian like myself. Regardless of that, they stood together with the people that are directly affected, with the family of George Flynn and families of people like him. And that is really inspiring to me because they, some of them sacrificed their safety and their lives for this, which is a powerful sentiment to me. As much as I cherish life, as much as I am a defender of I guess the of life, of compassion, of treating people like you want to be treated, uh, I still struggle with putting that mission before the safety of myself and my own family. I have not gone out to protest. I see what the police is doing and their violent reactions to some of the protesters, shoving elderly people, shoving women down, where people get hurt, and that scares me. And so I have not been able to overcome that fear yet. But I hope that as time goes on, I will be able to. But that is why those people inspire me, because in light of that, they still go out there. They still walk with the people that are directly affected, even if it means, like a reporter lost an eye potentially from a rubber bullet, even if it means it's a danger to their safety. So that is extremely inspirational to me and very powerful. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Peter. Yeah, and I think one thing I really admire about you, Peter, is that you often give us an inside look at your innermost thoughts and feelings that many of us can relate to, but may not always want to express. So I think what you're saying about not knowing what and when to sacrifice and what and when to risk in this time is probably quite relatable to many people and to me as well. I know you're in Jersey. I know less about what's happening protest-wise in Jersey. What have you seen anything? Are you nearby any centers of activity?
I am in northern New Jersey, right across the river from Manhattan. If you look at a map, it's about where 90th and Riverside Drive would be, just on the west side, on the Jersey side. And no, we have not seen anything, any protests or anything in my area or my immediate area. I haven't heard anything. I've heard sirens here and there when I get closer to the Manhattan side, but no. So I'm grateful for that very much.
Yeah, of course, of course. Well, thank you for sharing, and yeah, do stay safe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Again, make sure you click back up to that feedback form, and we will conclude our table topics with a guest of ours who is on the list for table topics. Alex, welcome.
Thank you so much.
I love your background. What's happening back there?
Well, that's actually Montreal. That's my little background. But like Basalie, I'm from Canada. I'm from Montreal.
Oh, you are? Well, welcome. How did you hear about our group?
Kind of like Basalie, I was just looking for a place to express myself. I'm a Toastmaster in a club or two here in Montreal, and I'm quite enjoying it. And I also love to enjoy, with Zoom, I've been able to travel to Johannesburg, Tokyo, Auckland, all in Toastmasters. So it's wonderful.
That's great. That's so cool.
The person who inspires me the most is a man by the name of Marshall Rosenberg. I don't know if you know him, but he's a proponent of nonviolent communication. Nonviolent communication is a very powerful but simple way of communicating with people without forcing them, without punishing them, merely by observing, by expressing oneself, by hearing what the other person has to say, by touching, getting into their feelings, and then by working together to get that desire and to work together. Kind of like getting to yes, the whole idea of principle-based negotiation. This is principle-based communication. He inspires me greatly, and I try to apply it in my practice of communication, in my speeches, in my mentoring, whatever I do, I try to apply this nonviolent communication. I love it so much that I'm trying to bring it into my workplace, where many of us can be nonviolent communicators. Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here again. I'm happy you mentioned Marshall because I had not heard of him before. I'll have to look him up for sure. And
Wonderful YouTube videos that you can check out.
And I imagine probably a great speaker to also watch and listen to. Can you tell me what your favorite word means? I think it's sedulous.
My favorite word is sedulous. It's also sedulity. That's the state of being sedulous. What sedulous is someone who is dedicated, hardworking, almost like assiduous, but I like sedulous. The reason why I like this word, I just learned it. I was reading my grandfather's writings. He kept a diary from the 1930s up to the 1950s, and one of the words he used there was sedulous. I said, what a great word. So now it's my favorite word.
Wow, how very cool that you have your grandfather's writings to refer to.
Absolutely, I'm amazed. I really
You
am.
must have been a wordsmith. That's great. Well, thanks for joining us, Alex.
Thank you.
And again, I'll just remind you to fill out a feedback form for Alex. And because we're at the end of table topics, also encourage you just to take a few seconds now if you ran behind on any of your feedback forms. This is a great time to do that. And just as we're letting you finish that up, I want to make sure if there's any guests who didn't get to speak that I just say hello to you. Bhavika, would you mind coming off mute and just saying hello to us? I just want to make sure we meet you.
Hi, yes.
Do tell me how to pronounce
it. Can you hear
me? I can hear you, yes.
Okay, great. Hi, yes, my name's Bhavika. I've been to a few Toastmasters meetings in the past, and I kind of stopped going once the crisis kind of put everything on hold. And so I'm just looking to join a new club and get out there again. So thank you for having me today.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for joining us. How did you hear about our club in particular?
I was just searching on Google for clubs that were offering online sessions still. And so this one popped up and I received the information to join.
Oh, that's great. Well, you're very welcome. Please come again. And where are you calling from?
I'm here in New York.
You're in New York.
Manhattan.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. We'll be happy to see you again back. If you'd like to come anytime, you're more than welcome.
Sure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I think that might be everyone. I don't know if Daniel is still on. We'd love to hear him. And other than that, and Gauhar, hello. I see you as well. If you're there, do come off and say hello. In the meantime, I think we're going to launch one poll. Sean, I believe we're launching the poll for best table topics. So just one more form to fill out before we go here. Sean will put in the chat, so the poll that comes up on your screen, and just let us know who you want to vote for the best table topic of the evening. And you can see on there that it's just listed speaker 1 through 10. Just refer to that roster list of who went in what order. That's next to me on the screen right now. Hi, Gauhar, how are you? Gauhar, are you off mute? You might not be hearing me, but another longtime member of ours, Gauhar. So if everyone's finished the poll, I think that wraps up table topics for the evening. Thank you again for everyone who spoke. And also thank you, Sean, for posting all these links and keeping us organized. Sean is such a huge help and such an important part of our leadership team that I want to make sure we thank him, because I would not be as organized as he is with all these links and stuff we're sending you guys. So thanks for filling out the feedback forms. Thanks for participating. And we hope to see you next week. For now, I'll kick the meeting back over to Henry.
Thank you, Kaylee. Yes, let's give her a round of applause. Great job again on table topics. For those of you who participated, thanks again. And that's going to wrap up our evening for the show tonight. I did want to say thanks again. This is week 13. And each week we keep on getting a little bit better. And I'm hoping that by the time we're in the really groove of this thing, we've got an audience which is also participating and also taking on roles. There's a lot of space here. There's people we need for Table Topics Master. There's people to speak. There's evaluations that we need as well. And so the next iteration for us is to get everybody participating. We spent the last few weeks getting our feet wet and on solid ground. We're on solid ground now. We need you to pass this on. And so for those of you who have joined, welcome aboard. Glad to have you. For anybody else that's interested in coming on board, shoot us an email in the chat, and we're going to be here for after hours to answer any questions, to welcome people who are members on board as well. So there's some things, if you just joined us, stick around so we can explain to you how the new process works for members. But that's our pledge now. We are officially back to our Toastmasters ways. We need to build our membership, get our audience, get the roles filled, and grow this club offline. Because I think that's really the desire here is, in addition to being face-to-face eventually, we'd love to be able to create a place where we meet people from around the world. We've got people from Toronto. We've had people from Australia, Latin America. We literally have a way to meet people that we never had before, and this is the new way. It's the Zoom generation. And we're all learning as we go. Every week, I'm getting a little bit better. Every week, this gets a little tighter. We still have our fumbles. There's no question, right? We're still not there yet. But that's the goal. That's why we're here, is to get to that place. And I'm going to leave one last point. I think one of the struggles that I continue to have here is that, we're so used to doing this now with our friends and on phones, is that it feels kind of casual to us. It's as if we're just talking to our friend on a phone, or we're talking to family. What we're trying to do is to elevate it. We're trying to say, when you get your 2 minutes here, we want this to be something that's tight. We want it to be entertaining. We want people to watch that and go, wow, I want to be able to do that. And so that's the next level here. We're trying to elevate ourselves from a casual conversation to a production. So for those of you who are joining, that's my bar. That's our bar for all of us, is you've made a commitment. You forked over your hard-earned $45 for the next 6 months, which, by the way, I think is a steal of the century. But the point is, you put your hard-earned dollars to work to say, I'm going to try to get as good at this as I can. And so that's where we're at. That's my bar. That's why we spent so much time putting the stage together with all the fancy swipes and all that stuff. That's why we're live streaming to YouTube, because we hope to get to a place where we can build an audience on YouTube. But that requires the content. That requires you all to come on this journey with us and practice and get these table topics and your speeches down to a place where they're entertaining and they're tight. Okay? So for anybody that would like to stick around after hours, and always for guests, please stick around and we can answer any questions there. And we'll get you hopefully to become members and come back, and instead of being strangers, become friends.
And I'm just going to jump in quickly. I have one more form to send out. For guests, we do love to hear your feedback. You have a unique perspective, obviously, because you've never met us, never seen our Zoom meetings before. So I'll just drop that in the chat right now as well. That is another Google form. You can fill it out now, or save it and fill it out after the meeting. But we really do love hearing feedback from guests, because it really gives us a new perspective. And please do come back.
Yes, thank you for that, Kaylee. With that being said, we'll wrap up the show and see you guys for after hours. Go grab your favorite cocktail, because it's all adult friendly. I'm going to come back with my favorite beverage, and we'll meet you guys all informally. So thanks for coming.
Okay. Thanks, Henry.